All right. Take a few minutes. Yes. Okay. Welcome everybody to the Flutter Belgium Meetup, number 23 already. I'll do a quick introduction because our meetup group does keep growing. I don't think it's 10 new people this time, 20, I think it's 10 new people this time. But each meetup we have new people joining, we keep growing. There's over 900 members now. We have this not so secret, but secret goal to maybe reach 1,000 members by the end of the year. It looks like we might actually reach that, so that's very good. Thank you all for continuing to join the group and turn up. That's what makes this work. What is Flutter Belgium? So Flutter Belgium is a group, and we aim to create a community for Flutter developers, where we can share our knowledge, get inspired, learn tips and tricks, maybe share an idea for an app or a startup that we can build together, really create a community around the Flutter framework in Belgium, make sure that we all learn from each other, that we get better over time, hopefully, and maybe also learn things that we want to contribute ourselves to the Flutter ecosystem by contributing to open source projects like Flutter or maybe Serverpod. I know Koen is very actively contributing to Serverpod. It's what makes the framework good, so hopefully we as Flutter Belgium can achieve that as well. And we've been doing that since 2018. Who is Flutter Belgium? It's Chris, who started the group in 2018, and then Koen sitting over there on the camera controls, and myself, Jens. Join us. I think you're here, so you probably already joined. What you might not know yet is that we have a Slack group that you can join, where I think it's a fairly active Slack group, especially like if you run into an issue or you have a question or maybe an idea, share it in there. Usually somebody answers and can help you or help you along the way with your idea. We also have a LinkedIn page where we do a lot of announcements of new meetups, speakers. Everything today is also being recorded. The recordings are shared there. And we have, of course, the YouTube channel where we live stream all of our events. So if you miss one because it's on the other side of the country and you don't want to drive so far, you can always watch live if you want, or watch the recordings after the meetups. We have an update. It's a fun one. We turned 7 this week. We've been doing these meetups for 7 years now. In that time, we've grown quite a bit. And in turning 7, we got to experiment with ChatGPT's new image generation feature. It turned out quite well. We had a lot of less successful examples. We have this one here, where Chris has a very large mustache, and then Koen instructed to make the mustache less big, so they made the mustache bigger. We also have one where Koen sort of shrunk, and then he had a very extreme growth spurt, which I liked. We have one where I suddenly turned into a bodybuilder, and we're 3 years old, and then also here I'm standing in a cake for some reason. But it all turned out, we got there in the end. So we had a lot of fun with that earlier this week. But all jokes aside, like, thank you all for being part of this community. For some of you, for 7 years already, it's what makes this community tick. It's all of you showing up and being enthusiastic about Flutter and the Flutter Belgium community. So thanks a lot. We couldn't do this without you. Thanks to all the hosts who have hosted us and the speakers and all of that stuff. It's really great. We appreciate you all. On that note, keeping the Flutter Belgium community alive can only work if we have speakers. And we're always looking for speakers. And we truly believe that everybody has something to talk about. If you're working with Flutter, there's probably something that you've done that's very interesting for other people that you can talk about. If you've never spoken before, no fear. You can also start with what we call a lightning talk. It's a 5 to 10 minute, very short talk. At the beginning of the meetup, we will have 3 today. And you can try your hand at public speaking and see if you like it. Or maybe you have like a very short thing that you want to come and show, then a lightning talk is for you. If you want to do a full talk, which is somewhere between 40 to 50 minutes, You can always reach out to us at the meetups or on Slack or on LinkedIn or whatever. We'll fit you in at a meetup that suits you, and you can talk at Flutter Belgium. We're also always looking at new hosts to host us. We have a very short list of requirements. If you want to host, it's basically some food, some drinks, and a place, and maybe a beamer, and that's really it. So if you or your company would like to host Flutter Belgium, same thing, reach out. We're always looking for new locations. I think now we have locations till the end of the year, so beginning next year, reach out. So today, there's one lightning talk missing, sorry Koen. We have 3 lightning talks. We have Frey, who's going to talk about FVM versus Puro. We have Thijs, generative fill for AI. I've seen the demo, it's cool. And then Koen is also going to do a widget of the meetup, which I'm happy about. It's something that I'm trying to start. Koen will explain more about what widget of the meetup is. And then we have 2 full talks as well. We have Louis from Get Driven who will do a talk, and then also we have Jarno about real-time voice assistant coming up later. And also Peter Mill, I'm not sure where he is, I saw him earlier over there, reached out to me on the meetup group. We always do an open space at the end of the meetup where we can discuss topics like we want to do a hackathon, we want to do something. In this case, Peter is looking for people to contribute on a project potentially. So if you're interested in finding out what that is, go talk to Peter. Or if you have projects yourself, you're looking for developers or other people to collaborate with, do join up and talk about it. At the end of the meetup, we always have a raffle. So we raffle off some goodies, some Flutter merch. You can join the raffle by scanning the QR codes. It will throw you into the app normally. I'll leave it up for a second. If you don't have enough time to scan it, you can also scan the QR code on the banners. It will bring you to the same place at this point. What do we have today to raffle off? I think some caps, these, right? Yeah. Okay. We have t-shirts. Do we have a dash? Yes. We have a dash, and we also have a pin still.
And do we also have tickets for FlutterCon?
We do. Yeah, but I'm not prepared to raffle off. I'll look it up. We might have tickets for FlutterCon, indeed, yeah. Or at least a discount code, at the very least. The one in Berlin. We have some, I think we have 2 tickets, right? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so too.
I think there's no raffle today.
Ah.
That's true.
Okay.
Okay.
That can happen. Do you want me to wait, or do we just scan the banners?
No, I still need to enable the raffle.
Ah, okay. Well, I'll put the QR code up later again. Tonight's host, Get Driven, thanks a lot for hosting us here in your lovely office. Thanks for the pizza, the drinks. Understood that Louis is going to introduce the company a little later, so I'll leave him do that. I'll already plug the next meetup is at Mobile Generation in Brussels on the 11th of June. There's an address here. The meetup page is already open. There's also one in October at ICAPS in Antwerp. That's also already open, so if you want to join those, please do. And that's it for me, and I'll hand the stage to Frey.
Okay, so for those who don't know me, my name is Frey. I work as a freelance Flutter developer, and I'm here to talk about 2 solutions that we have for managing Flutter versions on our machines, namely FVM and Puro. I currently work at a company called Robaus. Robaus is situated close from here in Zwevegem, where we actually aim to provide the best possible software for the construction and installation sectors, which is our marketing pitch, of course. So as I said, we're located in Zwevegem, close by, and as you might have guessed, we work with Flutter, amongst other technologies as well. We're always looking for new talent, so definitely check us out. Now, we've been working for quite a while with Flutter at Robaus. I actually went into the Git history of our oldest project, and I found this initial commit. I may or may not have changed the commit message there a bit to make it more cool. But we started with Flutter somewhere beginning 2019. So in June 2019, does anybody have an idea which was the stable Flutter version back then? Does anybody want to take a guess?
Right around 2, I think. No.
It's a bit earlier than that.
19.
It's a lot earlier than that. So it was 1.6.3, and now 6 years later, we're already at 3.29.2, and there have been a lot of breaking changes. It's typical of Flutter to introduce breaking changes. They're not afraid to not actually follow specific semantic versioning, but they document everything well on the developer page. And I just counted all of those, and it was around 150, but it only goes back to 1.17, so there must be more as well. Anyway, we've seen with the projects a lot of breaking changes over the years. Some of these are rather small, some of these could be a lot bigger. For example, migrating to null safety. I don't know if everyone experienced that joyful ride, but so anyway, when you want to upgrade the version of Flutter that you use in your apps, you may not always be ready to support the latest version yet. And definitely when you're working on multiple apps with multiple people running on multiple machines, of course, you need some way of managing that. And this is where version management for Flutter comes into play. Who here uses some form of version manager for the Flutter SDK? Only a few? Who uses FVM, for example? All right. Does somebody use anything else than FVM? Somebody use Puro, maybe custom commands?
The Sidekick?
Maybe, yeah. Sidekick they have Flutter wrapper as well, and
It is from VM.
yeah.
So Sidekick is basically just the user interface to interact with.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's FVM under the hood then. Yeah.
It's from the same author as well.
All right. So, but we've heard about FVM a lot. So FVM has been the de facto standard for quite a while now. It's something that the people in the community actually brought. Flutter does not support version management themselves, but most people jump to FVM. It just basically creates multiple copies of the Flutter SDK on your machine, and then you can pin a specific project to a version and make sure that it runs on every machine with the exact version of Flutter. You can check out more about that on fvm.app. So if you're not using any way of managing your Flutter versions, this would be the go-to to try out first. But recently there's been a new kid on the block called Puro. Now Puro tries to solve a few of the issues that FVM might have, or I wouldn't specifically call them issues, but potential improvements. And Puro specifically aims to use less network bandwidth and less disk space as well. Besides that, it also has automatic IDE configuration. This was the first thing that brought me to Puro. At Robaus, we don't actually care if you use VS Code or IntelliJ or Android Studio, but switching versions with FEM isn't that easy using IntelliJ, because you manually have to still set the version. Puro takes care of that. It does it in a little weird, nifty way, but it works most of the time. There's some other cool stuff that it provides. There's a REPL for Dart, so if you want to execute some Dart code in your terminal, you can do that with Puro on a specific version. And Puro changes like conceptually how these versions are managed. You basically create an environment. You can call it like, I don't know, like our production version, and then you give like that environment a specific version, and then multiple apps can actually listen to your environment called production version. So you can switch out like that. More information can be found on puro.dev. Now, the way that Puro actually is able to use up less bandwidth and disk space is by reusing parts of the SDK. Throughout different versions of the Flutter SDKs, there are definitely going to be some areas that could be reused. And Puro tries to be smart about that and uses object deduplication to actually reduce that size to the lowest possible. Now, I tried it up on more than 0 versions. It's 10, but I think it's cut off on the screen. So on 10 versions, I noticed that FEM takes about 13 gigabytes of disk space, while Puro only needs 9. So that is a significant difference and could come to play if you're dealing with CI environments that need a lot of data and bandwidth, and you want to reduce that number. Now, because Puro uses these nifty techniques to accomplish this, things might break. And what I noticed is that Puro currently has quite some stability issues. Basically, on almost every version that is published of the Flutter SDK, I noticed a bug ticket in Puro. So while FEM just takes a copy, it's very stable like that. Puro still has some issues with that. But the silver lining is that generally these are all solved within a day. So I think there's potential for this to get better, but at the moment it could be a little bit less stable. One thing that bothers me a bit more is that currently you're not able to pin a specific version to a project with Puro. Puro works with these local environments and doesn't have a way to actually share that with your team. This is something that you have to provide yourself. And it holds you back from sharing a specific Flutter version for a project with your team, but also with your CI/CD. So you don't want to like work locally on, let's say, 3.20, and then your CI starts building at a completely different version, and you get problems in production. So Puro doesn't offer that, but you can make it work with customized tooling. So to come to the conclusion here, I think Puro is a new tool that has a lot of potential and definitely reduces the network bandwidth and disk space. But at the moment, I personally prefer the stability that FEM gives, but this could definitely be interesting for people who are having issues with data limitations. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask me during the meetup, or let's connect. No, I tried it out because we wanted to solve this issue of configuring our Flutter projects on IntelliJ. But I think the drawbacks were a bit too big. So I think I'll revise it later, maybe when this issue of pinning a version to a specific project will be fixed or will be enhanced in the tool. But until then, I'll stick with FEM for now. It is easy to set up though, because they even have an uninstall command that just clears all your project like it was before. So you can just try it out and just remove it if you don't like it.
Yes.
Yeah, can we maybe turn on the lights, maybe? Sure.
Is dat hier?
Maybe that will work with the slides.
Ja.
Maybe not that much.
Beter? Yeah? Right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Thijs. I am an app developer at the research group at West University of Applied Science in Bruges. And recently, I did some digging about generative fill AI and Flutter, and I enjoyed myself while experimenting with it. So I wanted to share or give a short high-level talk about it on how I did it. So there was one of our projects, we had to develop an app, and we had this kind of image edit feature where you could just drag elements inside an image, which then gets flattened again to one image, just to edit, to add some elements to something. And then, of course, like many developers, you get the question, can't you do something with AI? And I said, okay, sure, I'll try. So I did some digging, and then I came across the generative fill AI. So you have these large language models coming up, and after that, you had these large multimodal models, and they're becoming better and better in editing or creating images. And generative fill AI is one of those AI models. And they use, it's a long definition, it uses text prompts to add or remove content non-destructively in images, allowing users to manipulate and enhance photos with AI-generated elements. In short, if you want a frog on your image, then you can just insert it by giving it a prompt and some region where you want the frog to appear on your image. So how is that done, or how does it work? It's actually, if you don't have to train the model yourself, it's quite easy. You just have to, the input you give to the model is just the original image. You have to somehow create a mask. We call it a mask, that's the black image over there with the white spot. And you give it a prompt. That mask is just showing or giving information to the model about where you want the object to appear. So it knows a little bit so it can learn in that white area the context of the image, and then it can place your requested sticker or whatever you want to add. For example, if you want a person's pushing a stroller along the sidewalk, the person is a mother with blonde hair and elegant clothing, the stroller is deep red of color, you show that error, and then, okay, the woman appears with the stroller. This is not always that perfect. I came across a lot of weird generations as well. So I'm not sure if the demo is going to go well, but let's see how it goes. My biggest issue was, or the biggest challenge during my exploration was, how can I create that mask over there? So that was the thing I had the most, I had to think about, because these AI models, I couldn't train them myself. You can try at least, but if you want a general model that can create anything you want, you need a lot of data, a lot of examples, and that's just not feasible for us at Hoest to do that, to train such a model. So you make use of the models that are online, and there's a lot of APIs you can just use to generate those, or these API endpoints to generate your images or your generative fill AI. For example, the demo I will show is with Imagen Art API you can use just to generate your what you want. So the mask. And that is also the reason I wanted to give a little lightning talk about it, because I found a way how to do it in Flutter, but I'm sure there are more elegant ways. I'm going to show you how I did it, and the last slide is just my LinkedIn connection. If you have some better idea, feel free to let me know. I'm happy to learn or to hear how you would have solved it. So what I did was, finally I could use a custom paint widget. I was wanting to use that for some feature. So I finally found my feature to create a mask. So I wanted to draw on the picture just to start coloring on my picture the area I wanted to change. And for that I used the custom paint widget. I wrapped it into a listener widget so it could detect my finger strokes when I started touching the screen, moving it around, and then letting go of the screen. So that was on one sketch. And on every sketch I made, it creates an object and it renders it on the screen. Of course, each sketch is defined within the area as a paint object here. Kudos to the guy who wrote a YouTube tutorial. It's one of the Google developers, I think. He learned me a lot about using the custom paint widget, so I wanted to include his, his link to it. So so creating the mask, after providing your prompt, prior to posting the request, we need to create a mask. So we drew on the picture, but there is no black image with that white spot over there. It needs to be a black image with a white color. If you just start using other colors, you might get some weird results. So for some reason, I had to try to convert that sketch into that actual mask I could send to the API. So for that creation of the mask, I used actually a stack widget, which has 3 widgets on top of each other: the mask, which you don't see, the original image, and the mask painter. So the original image is what you can see, the mask painter is on what you are drawing, and the mask is actually created by copying the paint objects, converting them into a white paint object, and then the mask is just actually a container widget who has a black background, and then the mask, the white objects are just rendered on top of it. But you can't see it. You never see it because I don't want the people to see that mask. That's just what I need, but I don't need to see it. And then to capture everything, I used the repaint boundary widget, which just takes actually a screenshot of what you are rendering on your screen. But the good thing is you can enhance that image. It doesn't take the pixels on the screen. You can really enhance it to an actual size of an image. So I just wrapped it into a repaint boundary, my mask, and my original image. I made sure that the image height and width matches the mask's image height and width, because if you give different sizes to that image and the mask, that's also not very good, or your results won't be as good. Or you might even get an exception from your endpoint. Not sure what will happen then. But after that, we have our mask, we have our original image, we can send that to the API, and then we can have some results. So, I still have time to show something? Yeah. So, here we have, I selected an image, for example. I can use, with my pencil size, I can just start coloring, for example, the grass here. So this is what I want to change in my image. Then I enter a prompt. For example, add some zebras grazing to on the grass. I create my mask, I send it to the endpoint, and hopefully internet is fast and I get no socket exceptions or something else, but we need to wait approximately 20 seconds for the model to generate or regenerate the image, and hopefully that will work. Always nice. Okay, we have something. You can't see it, so let me accept it. And there we have the zebras grazing on the grass, and you have your edited image. Thank you, demo gods. Okay, so like the repaint boundary, I was a little bit in doubt if that is the best way I can solve this. For my application, I always make use of the square images like you have on Instagram, so that wasn't an issue, but if you start having different sizes of images or some other things, if you have any better ideas or more elegant ways, feel free to let me know. I'm always happy to learn something new. So yeah, that was it. That was my lightning talk. Thank you for listening. Any questions or? All right.
One question, is your code open source?
That one, not yet, but the demo I can put open source as soon as we have released the feature. Yeah. Feel free to contact me. I think in June. Okay, perfect. Yeah. All right.
All right, so final lightning talk. I will be giving a lightning talk about package of the meetup. So basically, Jens started a series last meetup to talk about a specific widget that is not very well known, that is interesting to talk about, and to explain how it works in a little bit more detail. So most of you probably know widget of the week. So Jens created a slide where we indeed say widget of the meetup. So focusing on the widget today will be the ticker mode. Who has ever used the ticker mode widget before? Only one person, 2 persons. Then it will be an interesting talk for everyone. So basically, what is ticker mode and where is it actually used? So when you have animations like the loading indicator, it's constantly rebuilding. So you have your CPU that is constantly performing tasks, and your battery, of course, is going down because of the tasks that are being performed. So it's important that if you're not using the loading indicator, that you're either not showing it or disabling the notification in itself. So using notifications can be nice, but it can also slow down your application, of course. So if you look at it, first of all, you see that this is still you see that this still is a debug build. There's a reason why I'm not using web or a release version, is because I want to show the render or the performance overlay. So you can actually show this, but only in debug mode. So from the moment you want to show this on release, it's just throwing an unimplemented exception. So that's a small side note, but pretty interesting to look at as well. So if you look at this slide, this is all done in Flutter. So of course, the loading indicator is constantly rebuilding, as you can see in the performance graph that is provided by Flutter itself. Now, how do we actually pass the animation itself is by wrapping it with the ticker mode and setting it to enabled false. Only that will just pause the animation. And if you look at the performance graph now, it's not rebuilding anything anymore, which makes sense because nothing is changing at this time. So what does the ticker mode actually do? It will pass all the ticker providers, the animation builders, the animation controllers that are used below your ticker mode, and then it will disable the animation itself. So it will not disable your logic, it will not disable all your timers, it will only disable the ticker mode. So this will prevent the rebuilding of the widget itself. So you might say, okay, why is this actually important? Maybe in most cases you just don't show the widget. Then indeed, it's not required to wrap it with a ticker mode that is disabled. But a lot of the components that we are already use, the widget that we already use, already have this out of the box. So for example, the page view, the tab bar view, and the navigator already have support for ticker mode and handle all of this for you out of the box. Now, there might be an interesting case where you actually want to use this yourself. So in case you are using an index stack, which will only display the one that you actually have, or a normal stack, then it will show the page that you have on your screen. But of course, the ones that are not visible to the user, you want to disable all the notifications, because otherwise you will have rebuilds of a page that is not visible, which doesn't make sense, which is using CPU cycles that are not required at this time. So wrapping it with a ticker mode will enable you to just disable all the animations in the child widget itself. Now there are some other widgets to take into account. For example, the offstage widget. In this case, I wrapped the loading indicator with an offstage widget. And from the moment that I set it to offstage false, it's not shown anymore. So let's see how it actually works when you see the performance graph. So now nothing is shown, but the loading indicator is still rendering and still taking up CPU cycles. So this is not something you want. I also added the ignore pointer, and of course, from the moment so now I can enable it. I can tap on the item, and it shows a notification. From the moment I disable touch events, I can't tap it anymore, but of course, nothing is hidden. So of course, the CPU cycles will still happen. Now there's an interesting widget, which is visibility, which will contain a lot of other widgets in itself to actually disable certain stuff and to hide the widget from the widget tree and to not take any space on your screen. So from the moment you set visible to false, it will actually also remove the widget from your screen. It will not be visible anymore. It will also not take up any space, and it will disable the animations for you. So very interesting to look at is indeed looking at visibility, because it has some interesting parameters. You can maintain the state, maintain the animation, maintain the size, semantics, and interactivity. And the only difficulty with this widget is that sometimes it doesn't make sense which widget or which parameter you should use to disable certain states. So it throws some exceptions when you're actually using it for the first time. But the good thing is that it is basically a widget that does it all. So it contains the offstage widget, it contains the ignore pointer, and not visibility, but the ticker mode widget as well. So if you're using animations and you are showing certain stuff at certain places, definitely take a look, and maybe it will improve your app as well. That's it, and thanks for listening. Any questions, just shoot. Yes?
Did you do the validation as well on performance by just removing and re-adding a widget to your view?
And
compared to visibility, which completely paused and hides and restarts?
It's basically the same as using visibility, because it will also remove your widget from the widget tree. And then depending on if you used the keep state or the maintain state parameter, you will win. I'm not exactly sure how much you will win, but of course the state doesn't need to be recreated. So in that case you will win something, but I don't think it will matter a lot, because in most cases it will just remove your widget from the tree. So it's not available there. Only the state is still hanging in your state management of your app.
Is there a way you can close it afterwards, your state, or remove it afterwards, or is it only when the visibility widget is?
So indeed, if you keep the state, then it will also set a key, I think. I'm not 100% sure. But indeed, as long as you're still using the widget, then it will maintain the widget itself. But otherwise, it will be removed from your entire stack. But yeah, interesting to play around with. And also this one, I think if you're making lightning talks or something similar, I think it's a very interesting widget to use as well, which is the performance overlay. But of course, if you're building on web or a release version, then it's just not available and not implemented. So that will save you 15 minutes, because I already took some time to debug that as well. Okay, so that's it. So if you want to give a lightning talk on an interesting widget that you know, just let us know, and then we can hook you up for next time. All right. Then I think the next speaker is, or the first one, Louis. So yes, thanks.
Hi everybody, welcome to my first ever talk. I'm going to be talking about the Flutter background geolocation package, which I use to make some kind of proof of concept for this presentation. First of all, who am I? I am Louis, currently an intern at GetDriven. I'm also a student at West, studying MCT, which stands for Multimedia Creative Technologies, and I'm specifying in next web development. I've already had some Flutter experience in some courses while studying, and now I'm applying these in my internship. The main task that I've had until now for my internship was making this presentation and this proof of concept to use the geolocation package. Then a little bit more about GetDriven. We're the host of this Flutter Meetup this year. So again, welcome. We provide a mobility platform for personal chauffeurs. So basically you book a ride, someone comes to you and is your personal chauffeur and drives with your car around. Mostly these are students who drive around with your car. We're active in Belgium and Germany, and we have currently a driver and a customer app on the Play and App Store. Now, the thing I'm trying to solve is the background geolocation. Why would I do that? Well, it's to enhance the experience of the customer, basically. The customer would want to see where his driver is. Is he on the way? Is he far from here? or even if there's a fleet ride, so when the driver is alone in the car, there's no one with him, the customer can see where the car is. It's to prevent joyriding and delays, and mostly enhance the experience of the customer. So what we need is continuous tracking, of course. We always need to know where the driver is. The customer would also like to see the location history on a map, preferably. An option to request the current location, which is not in the proof of concept yet. Didn't implement that yet, but that's also a feature we would like to add. And the most important thing of all, even when the app is terminated, the location will still be active. So a little recap: we have two users, two personas for this proof of concept. The driver, this is the one who starts a ride and therefore also shares his location, and he can respond to the request, to the location request. And again, the app must keep running even when terminated. Then we have the customer. He books a ride and he can follow the driver's route in the app. He can request the current location and view the history, like mentioned before. For this, I wouldn't code this all myself. So obviously we searched for a package. We looked through a few, but we chose for the Flutter background geolocation as the most robust and featureful package we found. The other ones are unmaintained or don't even support background or need a lot of extra coding. This one is quite featureful and easy to use. So the Flutter background geolocation. What package is this? It's a Flutter package, mainly for background location, but also a lot of features next to that. It's built by Transistor Software and actively maintained and used in many production apps. The main features, of course, background tracking, but the package does not only track the location, it also tracks your motion. That way, it only sends location updates when the package senses that the device is on the move. That's also a feature of the package, battery optimization. That way, you don't have that large of a battery drain. It supports geofencing, and SQLite is integrated for persistence when you're offline to later send the location updates. And it has a great integration with the HTTP layer. This is mainly useful for the headless tasks, on which I'll talk about later. And of course, it's cross-platform, both for iOS and Android. Licensing, sadly, it's a paid package. It's closed source, but it's free for development and testing, which I used. And if you pay for it, you have an optional dashboard for analytics and such. So recap why we chose it. It's the most reliable one, and it fits the best in our use case. But like you see down here, we need to do some setup for the different platforms. On Android, these are the files you recognize, the manifest, the build a computer cradle. You have to do a few things in here, mostly because of permissions. You don't have to manually set the permissions. Actually, the package takes care of that through merge manifests. That's what you have to set up in the previous files. More about those permissions. In the configurement, the location authorization request defaults to always. So this means that the package will automatically do your permissions for you when needed. You can do them manually, but like I said earlier, when you start tracking or you need the location, the package will automatically do that for you. Then we'll go over to the live demo. I'll show you guys how the how the permissions are done on Android mainly. This is the proof of concept. When I want to start a ride, it asks for permissions. What permissions does it need? Location, activity, and because of its background location, you need to change this to always to. And then you can start a drive. But before I do that, I'll give some more information about how I'm going to simulate my location, because I'm not moving right now and I won't be. So I'll be using an app, Loquito. It's the one that the documentation of the package recommends. It lets me simulate GPS movements. I've set it up so that we're doing a lap around the famous Spa-Francorchamps circuit here in Belgium, which is useful for the testing of the location app. The only thing is, like mentioned before, this package does not only track location but also movement. The Loquito app does not simulate the movements, so I have to configure the package manually to is moving as true, so that it thinks it's moving. I'll just start over here. Now you can see we're on the Spa-Francorchamps track. But before that, the configuration of this package. This is the main part actually. Here you can do a lot of things. This is the basics that I used for my proof of concept, purely for Android. On top, the desired accuracy, this part. It's mainly for the headless mode, on which I'll talk about later. The distance filter is set to 0 right now. You can choose your distance filter, of course. This is based on meters, so if you set it to 10, it's every 10 meters you'll get a location update from the package. I've set it to 0 because we don't want location updates on a location-based, but we want the updates to be time-based. So the distance filter is 0 and location update interval is set to 10 seconds, but that's quite inaccurate, so under that I've set to 5 seconds. So every 5 seconds we should get an update. And like I said before, the is moving is true because the app can simulate the movement, only the location. Then it's quite easy. If you've configured the package right, you can just start and stop it. That's what I'll do now. I can start the ride. The ride is started, and then you just listen with the on-location listener, and then you get a location update, and then you can do anything you want with it. You can send it somewhere, you can sync it, notify other parts of your code. You get a lot of things from the location update. You can see if a mock app location is being used. You can see if you're in the vehicle, if you're on foot, if you're on bike. But these are the main things that we are sending with JSON. Just location, timestamp, speed, and battery. Those are things that we are using. And then when you listen to that, I'm sending it right now through a map, which updates live on location. So every 5 seconds, give or take, we should get an update. But then, what if a driver just terminates the app, just kills it? I'm the driver right now. Remember the location on the map, the ride we already took. I'll terminate the app right now, and then the headless tasks kick in. This is a special function that runs in the background. And it runs only when your app is completely killed. It's really useful and powerful. You can respond to silent push requests, handle background location updates. You can do persistence data. I'm using Hive right now, but more on that later also. and maintaining continuity in the background. To get back on the config, I said that was important, it still is. When you want to do headless tasks, you have to configure it. Headless needs to be true, stop on terminate has to be false, of course, and the tracking needs to be started on boot. Then in your main, this code, the code of the headless tasks, can only be done in your main. You have to put your headless tasks after your run app in the main. And before that, you have to configure your headless task. It's quite powerful because you can run things in the background, but it also has a lot of limitations. You can't access any UI. That's a problem that I've had with the proof of concept that I'll talk about later. It can only be done in the main, and you can only register one global headless function. One headless function, but you can listen to multiple events. You have different events, the events I'm using, location, but you can listen to the motion change, to when the app is terminated, or other things. You can do that to a switch case. When you're using a heavy or long-running app, it could be that the OS kills the headless tasks anyway, but that depends on your OS and on the battery states mostly. And it may not be triggered immediately. Let's go back to the app. It's been killed for a while now. When I go back, the state is being held as stored, so the write is still active. And the location updates were still sent. Actually, they were locally stored and now sent to the customer. But the location updates were still being updated when the app was terminated. That's the main catch. And that's all because of the headless tasks. Now, in iOS, we don't use headless tasks. It's done another way. The app actually runs in the background, so the full app runs in the background, but that's all iOS magic. So the app sleeps when closed, but it runs in the background, so any significant location change will wake it up, or timely based every 15 or 30 minutes. Then the app quickly sends location and goes back to sleep. The user experiences almost nothing from this. He gets a blue dot, and the location updates are less frequent because of iOS. That also means that the battery impact is minimized, of course. There's not such big battery drain. But when the app reopens, the updates become real time again. Now, this package supports a lot of different things, like I said, the HTTP and the SQLite. But I used a few different packages for this proof of concept, just because we're already using these packages in our main apps. It's meant that I will be implementing this proof of concept in the get-driven apps, so I'm already using these, but you certainly have not to use these. Only Lokito may be a useful one. The other things I haven't used but are quite useful in this package are the HTTP layer. Just make sure that you can upload all your locations, you can batch upload them, you can retry, and also put custom JSON messages. I had to create a model, but this is all done in the config too. This is very powerful, can do a lot of different things. I haven't used this, but I will certainly do this in the future when I'm updating the proof of concept. This also fits in quite well with the SQLite persistence, because what if a driver goes through a tunnel, or you're losing your mobile data, then the SQLite kicks in, This is standard in the package. It's implemented. So always your location updates are being stored. You can always get them back, and even order them or limit them in how many you want back or are being stored. This is also being done in the config. Almost everything in this package is being done in the config. The main thing is also you can change things in the config even when you run the package. Like, let's say you want to detect if a driver is going on the highway, so he's going at high speeds. If you're detecting high speeds, you can put a distance filter to 100 meters or 500 meters, so you're not getting that many location updates. A challenge I faced is we're using Sandbird, the Sandbird SDK, the chat SDK, but I couldn't send the location updates with Sandbird in the headless tasks. So that's a problem, something I mentioned before. The headless tasks, they are powerful, but they are limited in what you can do. So the best thing you could do is set up an HTTP backend. That's what I'll do next for this proof of concept. First of all, the request location from the customer. Middleware backend, so the application sends through HTTP the location update to our own backend, which then sends the location updates through the official Sandbird HTTP, so that the token is not used in the application. Some improvements with the background response. UI polish, we're using the battery and speed in the JSON, so why not even show it? And of course, the main task, what I'll be doing for the next week in my internship is integrating this into the driver app. Everything mentioned today will be over here. The documentation for the package, my repo, if you want to see the proof of concept that I made, and this presentation is also in there. It's a mono repo, and a link to the Lokito. If you have any more questions, feel free to hit me up via the Slack or via GitHub or something else. And my only question is, does anybody else have some questions for me?
We have a question from the live stream from William. What are your thoughts on background location tracker? Can you dive a little bit deeper into what made you decide to choose for a closed source paid instead?
Well, actually it was not my main choice. Of course, we had to discuss that with the team, but because it's good documented, the documentation is quite good, and it's quite featureful, so you don't have to do many things to get it working. That is the best part about it, I guess. You have other background location tracking things, but those do not implement the battery improvements and the movement tracking, I think.
All right, other questions maybe? Come over.
Thank you. Well, first of all, for your first presentation, you did very well.
Thank you.
I'm a bit more curious about the headless task.
Yeah.
Do you know how it works in detail? Because I was surprised when you say in Android, when you kill the app, normally you kill also the process running.
Yeah.
So every code attached to that process is dead. So how do you think that it works that in this case? I'm almost 100% sure that all the code in that app has disappeared, but then is it caching it on the web somehow, or?
No, I don't think on the web. In detail, I don't know how it works. I just know that when I'm killing my app, there's still a process running,
Oh, so the process is still alive. Okay.
The main as I would say running and post on entry. I don't know the details. That's the main thing about this package. It's
Alright.
quite easy to use, so I don't know the
There's some magic behind.
technical
Okay.
details, but it's quite powerful. Also, there are
Alright.
limitations, of course, but you can use it for many things.
All right. Thank you.
I think it might start off a separate process and then communicate through email.
That's what I thought. Also, it has a child process maintained.
I think something happens also if you receive a notification, then you can do some tasks there, and I think Firebase also has that pragma thing then that it can do a Flutter thing, but very small, non-UI.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Indeed, very good talk. I think the question from William from the live stream is mainly because William also contributed on the package. I built a package 4 years ago, the background location tracker. So I think it's a good thing that you started with something that doesn't need to be built from the ground up. But the main reason maybe to look at for your sending events and sending API calls is because of your headless task is also in a separate isolate. So maybe you have some dependencies that you are trying to access that is not in the same isolate. So I think that's something you could look at as well. And that also sort of answers the question about the pragma key. There's indeed a hash code that is linked to your actual Dart function that is kept in memory, and when your mobile app is started up or a process of your mobile app is started up, that specific function is triggered through the Flutter framework. But I think looking at the isolates might solve the issue maybe, because I think most of the issues that we saw on the package that I maintained as well was mainly related to that, because people were trying to do an API call that failed because their access token was missing, but it was provided in the separate isolate that doesn't exist anymore. So I think that's a good starting point for next week maybe.
That's why I would want to use the in-between backend.
Server. But you could actually in the same or the different isolate that you start, you could actually just set up the same dependency injection tree that you set up in your main Dart. And normally you can just access everything. But because it's a separate isolate, you can't share memory. So if you have how do you say it? If you have something configured in your main Dart file and you want to access it in your headless task, then it doesn't share the memory, so you can't access it. So maybe it's related to something like that.
Yeah, maybe that will work then.
So I think that's a good starting point.
Thank you.
Well. But very good talk indeed.
Thanks.
Anyone else? No?
I might have again, great talk. We're actually using the package as well. One of the issues we're running into right now is related to battery consumption. And I recently talked with other people actually giving the same talk or the same topic at least 2 days from now. And also with the package maintainer. And he mentions that the thing that drains the battery the most is going to be the amount of HTTP calls that you actually send. So tracking the location doesn't take up that much battery, but you'll definitely run into these issues as well. So limiting the batches of HTTP calls is definitely required and will be the best for preserving battery.
So if you want it to be optimized, you have to send them in batches and
exactly.
at a certain time interval.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds actually good intake. Thanks.
15-minute break? Yes.
Thank you all.
they have a nice car, so they want to drive it. They don't want to drive another round.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jarno. Today I will be talking about a voice assistant I have built in Flutter over the past couple of months. I think I started in November, and it's slowly getting better and getting more stable than in November. Yes. So my name is Jarno. I'm a full stack developer, and I think I started developing in Flutter around 2 years ago. I met two guys, Cameron and Mike, who are also here, the founders of Trickle, and I started working for them when I was in my second year of applied computer science. And they had an app, Trickle, built in Flutter, so I decided, well, let's do Flutter then. And I think in the first week I instantly fell in love with Flutter and everything around it. So I decided to start focusing on Flutter. And then the year after that, my last year of college or uni, I did a lot of things in Flutter. I did my internship in Flutter, and then after my degree, I started working for Flutter, for Trickle as their full stack developer in Flutter and .NET. But what is Trickle? Trickle is an executive assistant. It's an app which aims to help people get rid of all of the annoying tasks that come in with scheduling meetings. So all of the back and forward messaging, Trickle will handle it. If you want to meet with any kind of people or group, you can ask Trickle. It will get all of the agendas of all of the people using Trickle, and it will find the best time slot available for everyone, and it will suggest this time slot. So we decided to build a voice assistant because a lot of times when we are traveling by car, for example, and we want to take some notes, or we want to a basic understanding of our schedule today, we can just ask Trickle. So we can power on the voice assistant and we can just say, hey Trickle, so I want to know what my schedule looks like today. And she will, or it will, say what your schedule is. You can also reschedule meetings, schedule meetings in like 20 seconds, I think. Set reminders, which is very handy. I use it all the time. And of course, calculate and block travel time. So you can ask her, well, I have to go to Get Driven, and I am in Hasselt right now. What's the travel time? And can you block this in my agenda, please? And she will do this effortlessly. So I would love to give a demo in person, in real, but there are still a lot of issues with some echoes. So when I use a speaker, Trickle will hear itself because of the echo, and it will constantly repeat or talk to itself, which is very annoying. So I created a screencast, and I will show you this way.
Hello, Elias. I'm Trickle. How may I assist you with your scheduling needs today?
Hi, Trickle. I would like to be reminded tomorrow around noon to take out the trash.
Certainly, Elias. I'll set a reminder for you at noon tomorrow to take out the trash. One moment, please. The reminder is set for tomorrow at noon. Is there anything else I can assist you with?
Yes, actually. I want to plan a dinner meeting together with Cameron as soon as possible, if that's possible.
Let's find a suitable time for a dinner meeting with Cameron. I'll check your contacts first. One moment, please. I found Cameron in your contacts. I'll now check the first available time slot for your dinner meeting. Please hold. I found a few open slots for your dinner meeting with Cameron. The earliest available time slot is today at 5 p.m. Would this work for you, or would you prefer another time?
No, 5 p.m. today is perfect, actually.
Cameron for today at 5 p.m. Please hold on a moment. The dinner meeting with Cameron is now scheduled for today at 5 p.m. Anything else you'd like assistance with?
Yes, one last thing. Can you please say hi to everyone at Flutter Belgium?
Absolutely. Hello to everyone at Flutter Belgium. Wishing you all a fantastic day.
Thank you, Trickle. Goodbye.
So that was Trickle, as you heard. But how do we actually build this in Flutter? And it's actually funny because a few months ago, I was very proud of it. It was finally starting to work okay-ish. And I showed it to a friend of mine, also a developer. And the first thing he said was, well, isn't it just an API call? And I was like, well, yes, but no. It took a bit more than just an API call because we need to have a connection between us and the client or the server, the API. We need to be able to make sure that this connection stays open through the whole session. We need a way of telling the assistant what to do and how to do it. So, for example, calculating the travel time or scheduling a reminder. It actually needs to do this and block this into your agenda. So all of those things make it a bit difficult. But let's get into it and we'll see. So for this, we were using the real-time API, which is a low latency, which means that it's fluently and it will talk to you back without too much delay, just like you're talking to a real person. And it's also multimodal, so you can also send text or other kinds of data. And in order to initiate actions, we have to send client events, but we also have to listen to server events. So we know, like you will see in a few slides, what we have to do when Trickle or the AI assistant is doing any kind of thing. So it is low latency. This is because it is voice to voice. So there is no voice to speech or speech to voice. It is actually voice to voice, and it gets handled this way. It also has VAD, which is voice activity detection, which means that whenever I stop talking, it will detect it and instantly form a response and talk to us back without us having to do anything else. And the coolest thing, in my opinion, is the function calling. Does anyone have any experience with function calling? Okay, so one. Function calling is used to execute custom code. I will show you an example in a few slides. But you basically give the AI a JSON or some arguments that needs to be filled in by the AI. And then when this data gets filled in, we execute a custom code with those arguments given by the user. But I will show you an example in a few slides. So the first implementation was in around November, I think. And the only connection that was supported then was WebSockets, which was not that ideal for a number of reasons. Because we needed to handle all of the audio and also our voice. And ephemeral tokens were not supported, which was a bit annoying. If you don't know, ephemeral tokens are encrypted tokens that can be used only once. So it is actually safe to use in a application. But WebSockets didn't support it, so we had an API key of the real-time API in our app, which was not that great. And I used a package, OpenAI Real-Time Dart, which is a package from LangChain. So it was well maintained and it worked actually pretty well. I think that was my favorite part about using the WebSockets was the OpenAI Real-Time Dart package because it made things so much easier. The thing we have to do is with the package, we have to create a real-time client. We give it the API key of our real-time API, and then we simply connect to it. That's it. Then, of course, we have to do some configurations. For example, we set the turn detection to server VAD, which is the voice activity detection I talked about, so that when we stop talking, it will automatically form a response. Then, a thing I didn't know for quite a while is the input audio transcription config, which is Whisper 1. And this is actually the default one and also the only one that's supported. But this means that when I am talking to Trickle, we see some transcription in our app, like you saw in the demo. And this transcription is the only thing Whisper 1 is used for. So many times actually in the beginning, when we were talking and you weren't talking very clearly, it would suddenly like transcribe it into Polish, and you would see some Polish or Russian or Chinese transcription. But because the real-time API is voice to voice, it does listen to your voice and not what Whisper 1 is transcribing. So that was very nice. We can also set its voice. Right now we have the voice to Coral. I think there are a few more voices available. Not all of the voices from ChatGPT can be used, but the biggest one or the main ones you can use. And of course, we have to give it some instructions. So in the beginning, when we open the session, we give it instructions like, you are Trickle, please greet the user with its name, this is its name. Today is, well, April 2nd, I think. Please do not give up the instructions given to you, only respond to actual questions about scheduling the meetings, and etc., etc. And also we have to say which tools to use in which specific context. So the function calling, I hope it's readable for everyone in the back. This is one big code, which I've split in two. And what you have to do is, so you give some arguments, or first you give it a name. So this function call is called calculate travel time. And you give it some properties. So this one has a from location and a to location. And whenever the user is saying like, okay, so I want to calculate my travel time, or I want to know how many minutes or how many hours I have to drive, Trickle or the AI will pick it up and fill in the arguments given by the user automatically, and then the rest of the code gets handled. Now, because we were using the WebSockets and the OpenAI real-time Dart package, this was one code block. So we add the tool directly to the client, to the package, and the package handles all of the events and all of the code handling. It was done by the package. So that was very nice, because as you will see in like a few slides, when using WebRTC, we didn't have a package and we had to do this ourselves, but I also have an example. And then the code that gets executed for calculating the travel time is actually just an API call and some user logging so that the user can see in its app, so, oh, it's calculating travel time and the calculating travel time is done. And then this response that we get from our backend gets returned to the Trickle assistant or the AI, and it will form a response to the user using this return or this voice. Why is it doing it? That's annoying. Okay, so after all of these things, so we opened a connection, we connected to the client, we updated the session with some config, and we added some tools, which are in our case a lot of them. We also, of course, have to start our stream to be able to talk to Trickle continuously. And we simply use the package for that. We set some config. I think this is Flutter Record, the package. I'm not sure, but I think it is. And then we append the data coming from our mic to the client, and it gets handled like this. But annoying thing using WebSockets was the handling of the audio returned to us by OpenAI. So this was a stream of audio bytes, and I used a lot of packages. I think Flutter Sound was one of them, but the main issue I always had was when I needed to interrupt Trickle. So you are able to, when she is speaking, just interrupt her and she will stop. Using the packages, it was a bit difficult to actually configure this. So we decided to do all of the audio handling ourselves, and I built it in Swift first because our first implementation were only necessary for iOS, so I did it in Swift. I will quickly go over some of its code because it was a bit more difficult for me because I didn't really have any experience with native code, or not with Swift, or not that much. So it was kind of difficult at first, but fortunately we have ChatGPT to help us. So what we have to do in order to play the audio stream, so the main part of our native code, is we have to create a buffer for the stream that continuously comes in, and we need to schedule this buffer in order so that it can be played. But the first issue was all of the audio returned to us is a PCM16 format, and iOS can only handle float 32. So imagine you're receiving audio data and it's like getting Lego pieces and you want to build something, but the thing you want to build can only be built with Duplo blocks. You have to convert those Lego pieces, so the PCM16, to the float 32. And that's what this method is doing. It is creating a data container. I'll quickly get my pencil. It is creating a data container, and it will make the data container a bit bigger than what PCM16 needs. And then for every sample in the buffer, we will convert this sample into the range of the float 32, and then simply return this data. And this is the data that gets used here. So when we call the play audio stream, the convert PCM16 to float 32 will return the data that is used here. But then our second issue, we needed a way to translate the raw audio data to the format that iOS understands, the AV audio PCM buffer. And what we had to do was carefully create this special container and put all the buffers in this container, and then return the buffer back to the play audio stream, so here. And this buffer will constantly get appended to a list of buffers, and which eventually gets scheduled so that it can be played to the user. So using the WebSockets, this was the most difficult part to figure out, also because it's very niche and I couldn't find a lot of documentation about stuff like this, which was a bit annoying. But like I said, fortunately we have ChatGPT nowadays, what helped me a lot. So up until here were implementations using WebSockets and only for iOS. So we did not have an Android version yet. And fast forward a few months, so last month in March, we decided to also build the Android implementation. So what I did was I wrote some native code also using the WebSockets. I did the same thing as I did for the iOS version, but it was not that great. I got it to working, but whenever I wanted to interrupt her, it didn't work. The whole app was frozen when the Android audio was playing for some reason. I don't know why, but like I said, I don't have a lot of experience in native development and especially not in Android development. And the whole experience was not that fun, and Android Studio was giving me a headache. So I decided to start using WebRTC, which already had came out for a few months, but we didn't have the time, nor we didn't want to use it up until this point. And then the usage of WebRTC was actually instantly so much better because it enabled us to firstly use ephemeral tokens. So right now we don't have an API key in our app. The whole connection was a bit tricky, but that's also because I didn't know what WebRTC was actually back then. But it was an instant improvement of audio and mic because WebRTC handles this for us. So there is no native code necessary. There are no packages for the audio and the mic handling necessary. WebRTC does all of this for us, which was nice because iOS worked suddenly better, and our Android implementation was also working, so it was a win-win. And I'll show you how to actually create this WebRTC connection, because first we need to create the peer connection. And this peer connection is used between the peers to send the data, the audio data. And it uses these ICE servers, which are, and I have written it down here, interactive connectivity establishments, which will help us discover the best possible route to exchange data. And then we are using Google's public stun server to help us identify our public IP address to use in the peer-to-peer connection. And we set the SDP semantics to unified plan, which is a bit more modern, as I have read. Next, we also need a data channel. This is because we need to send data other than audio, so also text or JSON or binary data. And we are using the OpenAI events data channel, which is given to us by OpenAI. And that's actually all of the things we needed to do. We set this to ordered because we want to ensure messages that are sent through the channel are received in the same way we sent them. So this guarantees reliable and sequential delivery of our data, which is very important. Then, because right now we aren't using any package, so no OpenAI real-time Dart from LangChain package that will help us listen to all of the events come in by real-time API, there are a lot of events. So I think this whole method is a few lines big. It is really big because there are so many different cases. And one of the more important one right here is the response.function call arguments done, which means that whenever Trickle listens to us and it detects a usage of a function call, or the user wants to calculate their travel time, Trickle will detect this and start filling in all of the arguments needed to actually execute the code. It will, once it is done doing this, it will send this event through the data channel, and then we can handle this function call in almost exactly the same way as we would have done with the other package, except this is a one method only, and there is no definition of the tool, because the definition of the tool right now sits in our backend, so not anymore in the front end. It sits in the backend when we initialize the session, which I didn't specify, but so you have the ephemeral token of the WebRTC, which we get because we do a API call to our backend, which does an API call to OpenAI to open the session, not to start the session, but to open the session, set some basic config like the instructions given to the AI at the beginning, and also all of the function calls. And then once that API call gets done, we get an ephemeral token which we can actually use to start talking to Trickle. But this is actually the same code as the other function call, only without the definition of the function call. Of course, we also have to start our conversation with the WebRTC. So we create an offer, an SDP offer, which describes the media formats and the parameters that the local peer is using, which it has some audio codecs and some other configurations, if I recall correctly. And then we also set the local description to that offer so that we can let the peer know that we are ready to exchange information. And as you can see here, this was actually very annoying because I am using a very low-level HTTP client right now. The more modern one, I don't know which one exactly, but one of the HTTP clients I was originally using was setting these to lowercase, and OpenAI cannot handle this. So I was constantly getting issues with, I don't know what the exact error was, but it was very weird. And then I looked it up on Stack Overflow, and there was an issue from someone which didn't have anything to do with OpenAI, but also with the HTTP client that was setting the content type and the authorization to lowercase, and that it was another API that also couldn't handle it. And well, the real-time API also can't handle it, which took me a long time before figuring it actually out. So that's why I'm using this one. This one works perfectly. So that was actually all of the things necessary to start talking to Trickle using WebRTC. After this is done, you can just talk to it and it will work fluently and effortlessly, like you saw in the demo, of course. But there are other things we need to consider, and mainly how we are shaping its behavior. And in my opinion, this was actually the most difficult one, because one small change in the prompt we give the AI in the beginning can actually change so much in its behavior. So right now, I don't know the exact instruction out of my head, but we are saying like, okay, so you're Trickle, you speak in a calm tone with a British accent, not too fast, but also concisely. And you have to use the correct tools. So when the user wants to calculate his availabilities, you have to use this function call, the function call made for calculating availabilities, and not another one, because one time I asked her, well, can you calculate my travel time? And instead of using the function call calculate availabilities, I mean, it was just retrieving my my schedule, and then based on that schedule, that response, she was calculating my availabilities itself, which was also very cool, but it was not what it needed to do, because it was only looking at my agenda and not at the agenda of the person I wanted to meet with. It also needs to follow these instructions persistently. So if the user starts talking about other stuff and it gets sidetracked, Trickle says, well, I'm only here to help you with your scheduling needs, so let's focus to that. And it needs to stay focused also. And of course, we had a lot of issues with this. The main thing, Trickle does not listen to itself when you're just using it. So if you are using a speaker, then it can hear itself, which is a bit annoying. We can now interrupt Trickle, which in the beginning was not that easy, but after we used the native package or the package we built ourselves, we could. And with the WebRTC, it also just works, so we don't have to do anything about it. We did have some issues with it reacting to random background noises. And I think one of the more weird things I have seen with the AI or with the voice assistant was it talking to ghosts. So I was talking to it and suddenly it stopped talking to me and it sounded like it was talking to someone else. And it just kept talking and it just kept doing this. And then suddenly it was like, I am sorry, let's get back to your business. And it started talking to me. So I was like, nope. I turned it off and then I did some more prompt engineering. But yeah. So that concludes my presentation about the voice assistant. If anyone has some experience with this or anything we can use, please reach out to me. We can always help or use some fresh inspirations. Thank you.
Right, all right. Go ahead.
Thank you for the great talk. It's definitely interesting to see this from beginning to end. I was curious about the case that you mentioned, like a user is actually driving his car and he wants to instantiate a conversation. What do you use for that? Is something running in the background that it's constantly listening, or?
No, currently not. It would be cool to just maybe use Siri for this to actually open the connection. But right now it's just a button in our app which you have to press and then it starts up.
Okay, thanks.
Well, thank you for your presentation. It was very interesting. I was wondering, have you tried to experiment to achieve the same result with open source models? I'm asking this because I was kind of presented to a similar use case for a client, and his main concern was that all the prompts we sent to OpenAI, although they do have probably the best SDKs for building similar apps, he didn't want to send the data there. And in your case, it is sending quite a lot of personal information to OpenAI. And the main concern is that, I'm not sure if that's true or not, that maybe speculation that they will reuse that to retrain the next model. So the personal data ends up in the training data set. So have you tried to experiment with open source models?
No, not yet. We did look into it for a while, but we didn't have the time or the resources yet to actually start playing with these.
All right, thank you.
Question from the live stream from William. How do you approach indirect prompt injection?
Right now, we do not. I haven't thought about this, so that's great that you're saying this. So no, we haven't done anything about this, but it will get looked into it in the close future. Thank you.
Well, yeah, so I'm Mike. I'm the co-founder of Trickle, so I don't really have a question, but I wanted to offer you all the opportunity to try it out. So if you want to try it out, for free, obviously, reach out to Jarno, and then he'll give you some codes or whatever, so you can play around with it if you like. Okay. Oh, and sorry. Sorry about that. One thing on the data privacy stuff, we actually did look into the OpenAI data policies and so on, and you can opt out for the AI learning, but obviously we don't know that they won't actually still do it, but we did opt out to not have that problem.